Feeling a little defeated, guys. Feeling a little defeated after that, I got to be honest. Every time you get beat down, it's harder and harder to recharge that tank, and having a hard time recharging it right now. 100% honest.
Probably even more so because those were two of the best opportunities for wins that have gotten away now. Michigan State. It's not like you were hoping they were going to beat Ohio State and Michigan and they fell short. They've lost opportunities, with those two. And now, like we always talk about, you got to find somewhere to get those wins back. And
it's not just that. It's more like it's not a game. It feels more like long-term. Like Signetti comes in, and that guy is a badass. And I feel like Indiana is really good. And it's almost Ralph-like what's happening there with them right now when Ralph came into Maryland. And as a Maryland fan, you're watching it, and it's like, yes, Locksley's done a great job building the program, and he gets a lot of credit, and I support Locksley fully. But it feels like Maryland's not going to get that.
Yeah, like it's two separate things, right? He's gotten them out of purgatory, so to speak, on and off the field after Durkin and Jordan McNair and all the losing of that decade. But now it's been a while to where you've built the foundation to take that next climb, and that has not happened, and it's going to be really tough for it to happen this year now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crowning of Indiana Signetti already. I mean, congrats. You're 5-0 in September after playing nobody and Maryland, who might also be nobody. I mean, let's go ahead and not put the crown on the guy already. I mean, I think that's a pretty good Indiana team. I don't think it's like a historic Indiana team. I don't think they're winning 10 this year, but they're going to have a. Sure, they might because of statistics. That's how things work. They might go 5-2 to finish the season. I don't think they're probably going to do that. But okay, what do you do next year, Signetti? Can you transfer in another 50 JMU players, or are you going to have to actually recruit some guys at Indiana? I mean, my issue with, and a lot of my stress is coming from the kind of the online fan reaction to this loss and kind of how the season is going. Guys, this is what we thought was going to happen when we were looking at the season in August. Okay.
Yep.
Every year, right? Guys like us, who I will argue are fairly knowledgeable people when it comes to Maryland football and where the state of the program is, go and look at the schedule, look at the talent, and say, look, okay, the schedule's maybe not so hard this year. You don't have some of the typical teams on there that we typically lose to automatically. But at the same time, you get a new quarterback. You need literally an entire brand new offensive line. You've got 2 wide receivers and literally nobody else after that. You lost your best tight end from last year. There's some holes here. The secondary is full of children, literally just children running around back there on the outside. These holes have been there the whole time, but every Maryland fan decides to talk themselves into 8 or 9 wins when they see the schedule or when they, blow out the first team or two. And it's and then everybody wants to fire Locksley after, going 3-2. I don't understand. I get as excited as anybody else, and people get emotional. They call it, fans comes from fanaticism, right? But this is who we thought they were going to be. They're going to scrape to 6, maybe get to 7. That'd be a successful season. So, yeah,
are they going to scrape to 6?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Hope so. But it wasn't like I was like, damn it, they're winning 6 or 7 this year. No, we thought there was going to be a struggle, but the schedule would help, right?
Every time I got asked all offseason, I said 6 or 7. I was always stuck between 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think we picked 6 at the beginning of the year when we made our picks. I don't know. We'll get back to those next week when we have another game on the schedule. But I just don't understand the consternation. It was always going to be a transition year for me, and the fact that it's looking like a transition year is kind of oh, okay. Well, it'd have been cool if we just, bumblefucked our way to 7 or 8 wins because the schedule was nice, but looks like Indiana's good. Michigan State is definitely not a doormat, even if they're not, particularly good either. And, who knows what happens. If you go and beat Northwestern, you go 4-2, at least give yourself a decent shot at getting to 6.
Larry, you sounded very skeptical of that number 6.
Well, I didn't have time to do my normal collection of all the analytics and all that kind of stuff. I just looked at them quickly, and I did notice that pretty much every site still has Maryland at about 6 wins, and they have them still like at 30 or the low 30s in the country ranked, because they don't view that loss at Indiana as such a bad thing, because Indiana is very good. I have Maryland at 5.5 now. I would not be surprised if they only get to 4. Like, I could see that. I
don't see the bottom. This doesn't feel like a team where the bottom falls out.
If they only win one game the rest of the season, I'm hiring somebody to do my job for me for the next few months, because I'm not reading all that complaining and
who are they
arguing.
They're going to be favored against Northwestern, and I think they'll beat Northwestern, hopefully. But then what? It's I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of confidence. I feel a little bit beat down. So I know I'm normally the optimistic one, but
it's the Big Ten. Nobody's easy, right? I mean, this is what we signed up for. All right, we got the big check, but nobody's going to be easy to play. You don't get, I don't know, Wake Forest, Duke. I guess those aren't even super easy games anymore in the ACC, but you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what it's going to be. Now, I will say this. If you want to criticize locks, it's not necessarily losing to Michigan State and Indiana that are the ones that bother me. It's the fact that to this point in his tenure, he hasn't been able to make up for those losses by beating teams that he shouldn't necessarily beat. So, like, if you want to feel good, if I feel I'm going to feel good about this season if they get to 6 or even 7 maybe. But the way they do it is they go and they beat Minnesota on the road, who looks pretty decent.
You got to get out of my head. That's exactly what I was just thinking. Like, if it's between 6 and 7, but the 6 includes USC, Oregon, Penn State, whatever, that is way, to me, preferable than 7, where you're just eking out those mid-level wins. The 7 wins is not going to get the fans back. The only thing that's going to get the fans back is a win that they can brag about, and they just haven't had so long.
I mean, that's the one hole for me in the Locksley tenure. Like, I feel good about where the program is as a whole, but the next step for him isn't necessarily like talking about winning championships, all this stuff. I mean, come on, right? I mean, you're a coach. You got to say what you got to say, right? But as just a realistic guy who's been doing this thing for Maryland football for a long time, go beat somebody you shouldn't. That's the one missing piece to me. I don't care. You're going to lose to a Big Ten team at home who isn't great every once in a while, because everybody at Big Ten is at least going to be comparable. But, like, beat USC, beat Oregon on the road. They've been mailing in half their games anyway. Like, there's got to be a time where you're going to, I'm not expecting you to go to number 3 Ohio State and beat them all the time, or, even Penn State. You're always going to be playing these good teams who are in the top 10 all the time. That's going to be hard. But, like, give me somebody. Give me a top 25 win. Give me a good 8-win team on the road. Give me something. That's all I'm missing here, right?
It feels like basketball. Every other basketball program, even far lesser programs, they still have their miracle NCAA tournament runs once in a while. And for some reason, Maryland, as I always say, is just immune to that. Like, they just don't. It doesn't ever happen. Football feels the same way. If Northern Illinois can go on the road and beat Notre Dame, Maryland should be able to squeak out one over Penn State or whoever it might be, but it's just like basketball. It just never happens.
It just feels statistically impossible that those things don't happen here, and they just don't. I mean, Maryland basketball just having a miracle Elite 8 run from the 10 seed or something or in this case, going on the road and beating somebody good. It just never happens here, and that it takes away some of the romance of this. You end up just being cynical bastards like us who every year is like, all right, let's get excited for 6. And you do. I mean, we went on that Virginia trip. Tell me you didn't have a great time on that Virginia trip. Like, if that was just the whole season for me, I'd be like, all right, cool. That wasn't bad, right? But, it just becomes a thing where you really just wish they could one time do the thing that these other teams are doing. And we haven't seen it yet. And that's the one hole in the Locksley resume to this point for me. Go beat somebody you shouldn't. Beat 2 teams you shouldn't. And then you throw away a year like this and you hope to build on it for next year.
USC's got to be the best chance, right, for that?
at home when they have to travel across the country. Yes.
Homecoming should be a pretty live atmosphere.
And it feels like the type of, finesse team that Maryland can match up with typically. Now, I don't know about the way the secondary has been playing, if that's going to be the case, or the fact that like 3 of our best players were out of the game in the concussion tent last week. But that feels like the one. That feels like a totally gettable game. And if, it's not a game you're going to expect to win, but if you're going to pull off kind of a miracle, that feels like the one that's right there.
I will say that progress is not ever a straight line. So if you're losing weight, you don't lose the exact same amount of weight every day. You have days where you lose, and there's a day where you gain some. And that is hopefully what this is this year, right? Well, we have still yet to even see what the whole year is, but say they do only get to 5 or something, they don't make the bowl game, it's never a straight line. So like there still is optimism, the recruiting class is coming in and all that kind of stuff, but it does feel really bad right in the middle of it.
And I mentioned this in something I wrote on the site yesterday. It's important for Locks too, because he's got to get to 7 to get that automatic extension. Not that, he still has a lot of security, but that's a pretty sweet clause in his contract. You win 7 games, you get another year. So he earned that through 2028. And you just kind of assumed with the way they've been winning 7 or 8 every year, he's going to do it. But if he doesn't do it this year, then you're looking at, you have he's still 4 more years on his deal. But if you're a coach, obviously you want all the security you can get.
Well, he's not in trouble yet, but I've said multiple times, people will be and already are tired of 6 to 7 wins and barely eking into a bowl game. Already tired of it. Just it's the same exact thing that happened with Turgeon. Turgeon resurrected a program that was moribund. Gary's was very bad the last years. It took him a few years to get started. He resurrected the program. They got to the minimum acceptable level for Maryland basketball. They stayed there for whatever it was, 5 years or whatever it was. And then that's not enough anymore after a while. And I was thinking it might be a year or more until that happens. I think we might already be there with Locksley. People are already, it's not enough already. I think
it's pretty bad. It's really bad. I know as well as anybody, just because of all the social media accounts we have and seeing the replies, and it is almost late Turgeon era, maybe not quite, but on one level below late Turgeon era negativity just pouring in under every post.
Yeah.
So, he could really use one. I've had a funny feeling about that USC game for a long time too. Like, I'm not going to call an upset, but I think just everything's building toward needing that so desperately in that spot. But it is, the fans, the ones that aren't annoyed or disappointed or whatever are pretty apathetic. There's not a lot of
that's worse.
Not a lot of homers. Oh, tell me about it, Larry. I know that.
Yeah,
apathy is horrible. I just about fell into a deep depression by the end of that third Turgeon year. It was awful. It was like you can't write anything. I can literally write anything on it. It does not matter. Nobody's going to care. And it does feel like in general, as I've mentioned to you guys a few times, Maryland fans right now, in not just football or basketball, but just everything together, to me, feel literally as apathetic as they've been since that point after the third, NCAA tournament-less Turgeon year.
Yeah.
So,
what a great way to start.
Going to a commercial for Prozac right now.
Yeah.
I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I don't know who these people think we are. Like, I don't know who can look at the past 20 years of Maryland football and be like despondent that we won, 7 or 8 games 3 years in a row. Like, and that's just supposed to be like, that's not okay. Like, that's not okay for us. We're Maryland football. Don't you know that we won ACC titles in the early 80s when I was like 3? I don't know. Nobody wants to hear me rant about this anymore.
Well, I mean,
I just don't understand.
It's one of the toughest, Locks has his warts or his results have their flaws, but how many jobs in the Big Ten are tougher? I think they're the third lowest funded program in the Big Ten. That's just general funds. That's not NIL, which I know that they're toward the bottom in NIL too. And when you look at some of the positions, as I wrote, that they're weak at, the two most glaring issues, offensive line and cornerback, those are two of the toughest to get in the portal. Proven guys, especially offensive line. They cost a fortune and everybody wants them. And that's why you see, to some extent, what you see on the offensive line. Maybe they should have taken a big freshman class like they did this year. Maybe they should have done that a little earlier last year, or maybe, obviously a few defections hurt in the portal, but it's a tough, Northwestern's, I would say, probably tougher, although they have an amazing facility and new stadium.
That Lakeside Stadium is awesome, man.
That's temporary, though. They're building.
It's temporary, but it's really cool.
Yeah. Their facilities are really good, and I'm sure they have a lot of money. It's still Northwestern, though. You're not going to have a big fan base and all those sort of things. Indiana is probably a worse job because this is their first 5-0 start in 60 years, which is incredible, even for a bad program to go that long without starting 5-0. And then what else? Illinois, probably harder, maybe. I don't know. It's Maryland's. It would be interesting to rank the most difficult from top to bottom, with Ohio State obviously being the easiest by a mile.
Our boy Antoine Cuff coming through with the donation, and he said, "I'm cynically optimistic, but Maryland has proven the haters right. I want them to win, but something is off with these types of losses and no big win." Exactly what we've been saying. He's just agreeing with us that it's the same thing we're all feeling. Yep.
What's the crowd going to be like for Northwestern next week? I would think on one hand, it's Northwestern. It's not sexy at all, and fans are discouraged right now. On the other hand, Friday night, something to do. Maybe that gets people out.
Yeah, it'd be decent. I don't think it'll be a big. I don't think it'll be a big crowd for sure. Which kind of speaks to just the way fan support is here, period. It's, literally, what have you done for me lately? Or what have you done for me last week? And, that's part of the difference. Look at North Nebraska. They've sold out 1 million times in a year, and they've been dog shit for most of the past decade plus. Can you see the difference? Right. The second anything goes wrong for Maryland, everybody is off the bandwagon and immediately off doing something else. Just could not care less. Not interested. Done. That doesn't happen at these other Big Ten schools, even the worst ones. Right. Indiana, Illinois, they're still getting people in the stands. They still got big donors.
Even Rutgers attendance seems to be better than Maryland.
Of course they are.
That's a little surprising to me because I didn't think,
they're excited too.
Market.
They're gonna probably get 8 wins or so this year, regular season as well.
Look at 8 wins in football, and they got 2 5-stars in basketball.
Yep.
Rutgers.
Yeah, money helps, man. Money helps, right? That's always the thing. No matter what we do, it seems like we're always behind the curve when it comes to the money, and the money comes from people and from donors, and we ain't got them. So, but we should win 10 games a year because we're Maryland football, right, guys? We should do.
Things are bad in football, or not as good as some had hoped. We'll say not that bad, maybe 3-2. They still have hope for the.
They are what we thought they were, Larry.
They are what we thought they were. But for Maryland fans, there is some good news.
Ooh.
There was a basketball commitment, a top 100 recruit committed to Maryland, and since there's no football game this week, we're going to start shifting our focus to basketball a little bit. And so this came at the absolute perfect time. And just so everybody who's listening live, people listening later, we do have Chris Knoche joining us in about 10 minutes. But Jeffrey Ehrman, tell us about Christian Jeffrey.
Yeah, it's a guy who Maryland's focused on for about a year and a half, almost probably. New York City native, Brooklyn guy. played the last 2 years at Mount Zion Prep in Maryland, which is in Lanham, 5 miles from College Park. Really tough, hard-nosed. I've said it a million times, but he's that classic, like, 90s New York City guard. Maybe not as flashy as some of those guys, but he's got a little bit of that kind of playground, crafty game, super strong. I mean, he looks like a NFL safety. The guy is an absolute grown man. Former teammate of Malachi Palmer, who's a freshman at Maryland, of course. So that helped a lot. I think they're really they're happy to get him. And the other thing about him is, you don't have to rely on him to be a main guy his first year, barring attrition, unless you lose Jacoby Gillespie, then you probably just count on Jeffrey to play like a supporting role, which is a lot different, as we saw last year with DHS and Jamie Kaiser, than getting a guy in that ranking level, although DHS was rated higher, obviously, but getting him and expecting him to be a main guy immediately. So it's a really good get. You add him to Marcus Jackson, who's the number, I think we have him 65 now nationally. Chris Jeffries, number 93 nationally. So they're not blue chippers, but two top 100 recruits is a solid start. And, now the question will be whether they'll add any more high school recruits or, we'll be waiting it out to the portal season.
Will they?
My guess is no, quite honestly. I think the best, maybe only remaining chance would be Jordan Scott, who is pretty close to deciding still. Michigan State's still in there. Virginia Tech has made a move. So I haven't, they still have a chance with him. But if they don't get him, it's probably a long shot unless, some random decommitment pops up in the spring or something like that.
Well, they're 20th overall right now. If they do add Jordan Scott, they'll jump to the top 10. They'll have a top 10 class in the country.
Yeah, and in basketball, it's tough with classes because this class has 8 guys and this has 3 or whatever, unlike football where they're all in that same kind of range. So the quantity kind of messes it up. But if you look at average player rating, they're pretty good there. It's second best in the Big Ten right now. A lot of Big Ten schools don't have any commitments yet for this year, several of them, and very few have more than one. So as much as it seemed like this class was getting off to such a slow start, they're actually in pretty good shape.
And Paul, you have been somewhat, what's the word for it? Skeptical, is that the right word?
You could probably just put like a cardboard cutout of me for this segment. Yes, everybody's heard what I'm going to say, but I'm happy to say it again.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. He looks like a good kid. Like Jeff said, if you in a typical Maryland level class, you would probably have 2 of these guys in it. They might be towards the bottom of one if you were trying to, have a class that can compete. But it looks like Willard has decided that he's not going to put a lot of stake in high school recruits at this point. And if that's his decision, that's fine. If he can win by raiding the portal most years, along with, a stud recruit like Queen and sprinkling in some guys kind of here and there, great. I don't care. Just win. Right. I said this a couple weeks ago. People complain about play style and about this and that and the other. I don't care. Just win.
Yeah.
So if Willard can go out there and show that he can win by recruiting this way and by mainly sticking to the portal and, recruiting these kind of tough, heady, lead guard types like he used to at Seton Hall, surrounded with some big guys, fine. I don't care. Just win, man. It's year 3. All I'm interested is finding out whether the guy can win. That's honestly all that matters to me.
It's probably the smarter way to go. Now that there's a budget, whatever you want to call it.
How big's that budget?
Whatever it is, you have to spend it wisely. And if you're playing the new paradigm, which I'm on record for not liking, but if we're in it, which we are, then the smartest thing to do is to use that budget wisely, and spraying it on unproven high school recruits, probably not the best strategy. If you can go out and get guys who are proven to be able to play at the D1, at the high D1 level. Like that's probably a smarter way to do it.
Right, but the market's the market, right? So I would imagine, and maybe Jeff can speak to this a little bit, that other than the elite's top level high school recruits, you're paying more for your average portal guy than you are for a high school kid.
Yeah, but but the problem, Maryland can't miss with their budget. Other schools have more money. If they miss, it's okay. They can just say, all right, we're going to go for 3 or 4 of these guys. One doesn't work out, it's okay. They've got more money coming in next year, and they can do it again. Maryland can't. You have to be way more careful about it. And if you have unproven high school talent versus proven college talent, I think that's probably the smarter way to go.
Well, you have to see what's proven, right? Well, Geronimo's a guy who comes from Indiana. Was he proven?
He's a proven low-level Power 5 guy. But
okay, is Gillespie proven? I mean, well, I think so, but we don't know, right?
His percent chance of playing well is way higher than any of the other freshmen they would have gotten.
Absolutely,
Queen.
Absolutely. But you get 2 years at best of him. You don't get a chance at 4. So it feels like you got to sprinkle in a little bit of both to me. Like you've got to have some continuity, or it's not going to work, right?
Or if crapshoot.
Right. If the idea is you're just going to, it's kind of like doing what Calipari was doing at Kentucky with all those top 10 freshmen. Instead of doing that, you're doing it with portal guys. Maybe that can work. I don't know. I don't study the way other coaches are doing this in other programs enough to know whether that's a successful thing. And honestly, I don't care. If Willard can pull it off, great. I'm on board. Do it. If he can't pull it off, I'm a rag his ass. I mean, that's how this works, right? You get paid the big bucks. So hey, if I think you're wrong and you go out there and win, 27 games and get a 4 seed, I will shut up immediately, and you won't hear me talking next time. But if you go through another season where you struggle, you're on the bubble, what are we doing here, right? Next year you got Reese. Reese is gone. God knows what's going on with Queen. You're going to have to reload and do this whole thing all over again. So
that's everybody, though. Everybody's doing it now.
Right. That's everybody, and that's fine. But win or get out.
Of course, he's got to win. Of course. But to me, it's like playing FanDuel. You have a salary cap, and you've got all these players, and they have all these budgets, and you can't buy the best player at every position because you've got this budget. You have to go and you have to find these guys who are undervalued that you think you can spend. Exactly. You're basically.
But that's always been the case for Maryland, right? No, Maryland's not in play.
It's even more so now.
Like literally, the second a guy became like a top 20 recruit, Maryland's like, oh, well, we can't recruit them anymore by law, right? So like that doesn't change for me. Maryland's always going to have to find these guys out of nowhere, whether they're out of the portal or whether they're high school recruits. Maryland's going to have to scout better. They're going to have to find guys that fit the system that they run, maybe better than they might fit a system somewhere else. That's always been the case here. I hate that that's the case here, but we can recognize, that's just where we're always going to be, because nobody's walking through that door and is going to make us a top level NIL or budgetary school. It's just not going to happen.
But my point is when he's recruiting these guys, as soon as they blow up, then you have to make a decision. And my budget, my FanDuel budget, all of a sudden I was getting this amount of value when I was paying this amount of dollars. Now all of a sudden I'm paying this amount of dollars. Maybe it's not the smartest buy for me anymore.
This is going to be the 30 most depressing minutes of the show.
But that's what I think. That's got to be that's in my mind has got to be what's going on. Unless there's something else like behind the scenes that we don't know about. But that's what makes sense to me and what's happening. That would make sense if that's what they're making those calculations. That's the way I would do it.
That's fine. All I would say is I think the more you depend on the portal, the more volatility you're going to have. So I think every year you could be up and down, right? Like you're going to hit one class, you're going to screw up the next one.
Unless you're recruiting, I think less volatility. Unless you're recruiting,
but you're going to have 5. If you're going to have 5 or 7 new guys on the team every year, that's a lot of volatility.
Yes, but we are now joined by the guy who knows more about this than any of the rest of us. So we're going to add him, Mr. Chris Knoche. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing
Hey, Chris.
good. Very excited to have you back. First time this season.
Yeah. It's getting closer and closer, man. It's exciting.
Yeah, and there's no football this week, so we decided we're going to start transitioning, into our basketball season. And what better time to bring on Chris Knoche and
the Hall of Famer.
Yes, you just got a major award as well, so we get to celebrate that. What happened?
I have no idea. They chose poorly, is what happened.
They were totally out of candidates, so they finally got to you on the list.
Honestly, it's funny that you say that because when they told me who else I was going in with, I felt like, it was like channeling my inner 17-year-old when I was the last guy picked for a 4-on-4 game. I just happened to make the cut at the very end. Hey, there's that guy sitting over there. He's been sitting around there for a long, long time. Maybe we deserve to give him some, maybe he deserves a little run here.
Hey, you're still on the team, man.
You deserve it, Chris. Come on, you deserve it.
I don't know, man. You know what I mean? It's not really. I'm just sort of a right place, right time guy. It's just, it's probably the only talent I have, but I'm not going to apologize for it. And I got a pretty nice plaque for it, so I'll take that.
So your best ability is availability, is what you're saying.
You know what? Part of the deal, part of the gig is showing up, right? Being available is part of it, but you gotta punch the clock. You gotta pound the rock a little bit, So, and I've been able to do that for sure.
So, Chris, what are the vibes? I know you've been around, obviously, checking out the team here and there, hearing some things. What do you think about the upcoming season? What's your overall sentiment?
Well, I tell you this, first of all, for anybody who walks into particularly the early games at Xfinity. By the way, let me back up. I got to tell you something. You know what they were doing today at practice, which was borderline spectacular, was they were trying out all the graphics on the new video board, on the new scoreboard. Spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Very cool. Fans are going to love that. I was really, really impressed by it. But beyond that, as it applies to the team, I think one of the things that I would encourage people to do, particularly who are going to the early games, is to make sure you stop and get a program because there are just a lot of new faces, man. You walk in there. I was in there a couple of weeks ago, and I asked one of the Maryland guys, please sit with me for a few minutes just to kind of point out who's who. Obviously I've seen enough video of Derik Queen. I know who he is, of course. But some of these guys, they're all wearing the same gear. They all just sort of blend together a little bit. So once you sort that out, you kind of get an idea who's who. And, they've got some talent. Now, I've enjoyed watching this team play and work out. They play hard as hell. But one of the things that occurs to you when you're watching this is that, Indiana, Ohio State, even like Nebraska, they've got the same deal. They got 7 or 8 new guys also. So it's sort of in the sense of a theory of relativity. Relative to the rest of the conference, I have no idea how they stack up. I liked what I saw, but I have no idea how they stack up because I just, haven't been to the other practices. I've liked it. A couple guys really stand out, and the size is great. I think they've got more options in terms of scoring way more options in terms of scoring than they had last year. And obviously those are big things.
So, Chris, we were talking before you came on about the fact that Maryland's got a recruiting class of 2 at this point. So it looks like Willard has kind of consciously thought, okay, I'm not going to focus so much on high school recruiting, and I'm really going to kind of try and hit the portal hard most years. As a strategy, being a former player and a former coach, how does that come across to you just as a way to attack this kind of new NIL transfer universe where that probably you're going to have to deal with the fact you're going to have 5 or 7 new guys on the team every season? And how does that affect continuity and how you can play and kind of keep a cohesive style?
Well, I mean, obviously it doesn't help you with your continuity for sure. There's an adverse effect on your continuity. And I think one of the things that this teaches you is that, the teams that are successful, the programs that are successful are somehow the ones who are somehow able to figure out that part, the continuity, whether it's, and these guys spend so much time together now. They practice during the summers. They practice during the fall before the actually official start of practice last week. I think it's, maybe it's one of those things that's a lot more art than science. And I don't know how you do that necessarily, but yeah, it's hard. And you are spot on in terms of what the strategy is. I think that I know they're involved with a couple of high school kids. If they don't get them, I don't think they will bat an eye about those guys. I think they will move forward, prepare for the onslaught of 2,000 guys in the portal again next spring. And, and then at that point in time, it becomes a sort of a math equation, right? You have to, and I'm not talking about in terms of the numbers of guys in your team. I'm talking about the dollars and cents. And that's a critical part of the equation now is to, what you're able to pony up, assuming you are able to pony up.
Chris, one of the biggest issues last year on the team was the outside shooting, and everyone's still concerned about it. They got a bunch of transfers to come in, all the outside players, and everybody's wondering, is it going to be better? Do you have any idea just from watching practices or just an opinion based on knowing their games? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be much better. And I'll tell you why, I mean, I guess this is sort of the purist in me coming out, but one of the things you see from some of the new guys, from, guys like, Rodney Rice and Selton Miguel and Jacoby, Gillespie, you see these guys, their form is the way you're supposed to shoot a jump shot, and a lot of times last year it seemed like we had guys shooting on the perimeter. They were trying to will the ball in as much as anything else. And that's really not a healthy way to approach it. I think you've got guys, a guy like Miguel is a 3-level scorer. He's just a linebacker of a kid who can really shoot the ball. The form is terrific. I really like what Jacoby does as a point guard. He's completely different than kind of what we've seen. He's more of a glider. He doesn't, last year, a lot of the Big Ten coaches one of the common themes about Jameer was just how freaking strong he was. Jameer made that body. He worked his ass off to get to that. He looked like a running back by the time he was a senior. And, a lot of the Big Ten coaches said that their guards just couldn't handle the strength. And, of course, Jameer had a great burst and a great quickness as well. Jacoby's more of a glider, a very good defensive player, a much, very, very capable shooter, but he doesn't appear to me to be a, score first kind of guy. They've got other guys to do that. And, it's good to see. They've also got more bigs inside. I would guess that obviously everybody knows Derik Queen. Julian is shooting the ball without a hitch. So opera clap for that, right? I mean, you don't see it from the foul line. You don't see it anywhere. He's shooting it very smoothly. Doesn't always go in, but back to the purist thing, he's shooting it the way you're supposed to shoot it. Braden Pierce might be the most improved guy in the program right now, but he's playing behind some guys who can go in Julian and Queen and even the guy that the guy who came in from Georgia Tech's got a live body and he's going to help them. So like I said, they've got more options. I think that the early returns are really good. It also makes for a really competitive practice. These guys get after each other because there's really not a whole lot of separation. Fortunately or unfortunately, they don't have that marquee guy. I guess you guys probably saw the Big Ten preseason all-conference team. That's not worth a freaking dime, really. When you think about all the new guys, there was one guy who was unanimously voted on that Big Ten all-conference team preseason. One guy, unanimous. Last year, you knew Zach Edey and the kid from Illinois, Shannon. You knew Jameer would be on there. There were some mortal locks in there last year. This is just a new frontier. It's a new ball game completely.
So, Chris, I got to ask, when you during the induction, in the DC Sports Hall of Fame, did you take a selfie and send it to Gary and say, your Naismith has got nothing on this?
Well, I've got, you know what? It's in the podcast we do, I always introduce him as our resident Hall of Famer. And
you have to change that up.
My fellow Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, I mean, I'm thrilled to be a part of the DC Basketball Hall of Fame, but he's got the jacket. He's got the shit. He's got all that, and that trumps anything I got going on. So
did they at least give you like a hat or something?
I got a plaque, and I got a lunch at Congressional. How about that?
Okay.
So
lapel pin, maybe.
What's that?
Lapel pin, maybe.
Who wears a jacket anywhere to put it? I wear a jacket like 4 times a year for that lapel pin. So
yeah, you're not a blazer kind of guy, are you?
No. You know what I mean? Maybe pre-COVID, perhaps, but yeah, that ship has sailed.
Of course, everything since June, everything I keep getting is that Queen is the truth as billed. Do you agree?
He's really a different kind of guy, Jeff. I got to tell you, it's weird. When you watch him, like I was watching him a couple weeks ago, and it was much more pickup oriented, where they were getting up and down the court and playing grab ass and doing pickup game type stuff. And he didn't really stand out in that environment. But when you put structure in there, and you put you're calling fouls and you're running plays, he's a different guy, and he scores around the basket. He's a great passer. Scores around the basket with both hands. I was really intrigued today that for the stretch of time that they played him and Julian together. The only problem with that is in practice when you do that, I'm not sure you get a great look from the defenders. You're not playing against Big Ten quality defenders.
Yeah.
In that high-low look. So. To me, it looked great. It also is one of those things where you're doing something different than everybody else does when you play those two guys together. So I hope we see it early. I hope we see it often. He's a really nice player, but you know what? He's also come in with a bit of a target on his back. Willard wears him out a little bit during practice, I think, just to keep him even keel, and which is fine. He responds to it well. I really like his demeanor on the court. I mean, the early returns, watched him play a couple of times in there. I've really, really enjoyed it, but I guess we'll see. The season's coming up here pretty quick.
All right, breaking news. Chris Knoche says Derik Queen is overrated.
No, I didn't say that. I wouldn't say that. You know what? There's a term, you've probably heard me use this, but the last thing you want on your team is a 3 o'clock superstar. A guy who's kicking everybody's ass in practice, and then when the lights come on, he's just a guy, jag, just a guy. You want a guy who steps up when the lights are on. I expect, particularly because of not just the body of work, but where he's played, the level he's played at. I expect that he's one of those guys that steps up. At game time, 7 o'clock.
Chris, just to follow up on that a little bit, what are you seeing when you see Julian and Derik out there together? Is it more of Derik kind of as the 4 than the 5, as opposed to the opposite way around, or are they still kind of messing around and seeing what they can do with that? I
think it's honestly it's a work in progress, Paul. No question about it. There would be a time. So a lot of it sort of is dependent upon. I don't want to get too wonky here, but like if you're running transition, right? It depends on who the trailer is. The trailer is always going to be the high guy, right? Yep. Which in effect is the 4, right? And then the other guy is trying to seal inside. So there were stretches where, Queen was up top, Julian was down low, and that's the preferable thing because Queen can really shoot it. I would never have a problem with him shooting a 3. Julian is a guy who, if he's up top there. Defenders do have a couple of choices. They can get up and squeeze him and really strangle him and, make the pass tough on him, or they just back off and sit in Queen's lap. Right. So, I think they're trying to figure all that out. I think that Kevin Willard is committed to kind of seeing what that looks like. And that's why, you're able to play these games in November to see if there's a possibility that in January and February there's some gold there with that tandem, with those two guys playing together.
Yeah, and I kind of get the feeling just you're probably not going to see more than 10, 12 minutes a game anyway. Like they might switch them up. If you got a guy like Kapare, who's kind of like that pogo stick 4 that we haven't had in quite a while, and if Pierce kind of shows up and is that kind of guy who can stress the court a little bit at the 4, you might have 4 guys who can actually play. You're not really going to have a situation where you're going to be stuck playing them 30 minutes a game together.
Also, don't roll your eyes when I tell you this, okay? Do not roll your eyes. But
okay, I promise.
Geronimo. Who's playing really well and really seems to understand why he was brought back is Jordan Geronimo.
Yes, that's what I wanted to hear.
So, and in a situation like that where you've got that incredible live body, very capable defender, stronger, he's a strong enough kid at 6'6" that he can defend 4s and 5s. It appeared to me watching practice that he's had some skull sessions with Kevin Willard about what is expected of him and what his role is. You got to started a bunch of games last year. I'm sure Kevin said, listen, we'd love to have you back, but you're more like a, 7th, 8th guy. But he's going to get some run. He's going to get some play, if for no other reason than he knows the system. I think that, he's got a lot of respect out there, and that level of athleticism is just absurd. So I think
I was going to say, the only thing I would add as a question is I think most of us like what Geronimo brings. It's a matter of whether he's playing the 3 or the 4. It kind of feels like you run a guy like that at the 3, you're playing, 1997 babasketball.
You can't do that PJ Tucker corner thing like last year.
Yeah.
No. I think that ship has sailed. I think he's I don't, Willard always encouraged these guys to shoot. I've never heard him address a guy who's open and say he took a bad shot, particularly from the 3-point line. But I think that more often than not, and they've got so many more options out there on the wing that I think more often than not, you'll see Jordan as a 4-man. That's just my guess.
Well, if he didn't scold anybody for taking a 3 last year, he's never going to.
It can't possibly get any worse.
Well, I mean, honestly, they had. I mean, you guys saw all the games too. I mean, they had open 3 after open 3 after open 3. I mean, you think at some point in time, even just probability tells you that some of those are going to start to go down. But man, it was awful.
It was brutal.
It's probably a reason why they were always open.
There's that.
Chris, thank you for joining us. Your first time this year. I say first because we will have you back. But before you go, did you have any projections for the season? What do you think? How do you think they're going to do this year?
So I think they'll be very good. I was reading some. So true story. I have a ballot for preseason all-conference team, and so I'm thinking to myself before I even filled it out, I have no idea who anybody else has. So I started to Google, a lot of early preseason predictions for the team. And the predictions are all over the place. Most of the predictions have them, really in the second 10 of the league, in the back half of the league. And I think they're way better than that. But again, Larry, I have no idea what anybody else has. I know some of the guys Illinois picked up, and obviously people expect a lot out of Indiana, largely because of the big kid from Arizona. But we got a couple of guys like that ourselves. Julian has never shied away from playing against guys like Edie, or I'm sure he won't shy away from playing against Ballos. So I think they'll be fine. I think that they've got all the pieces that they need to compete. I think it's really important you get off to a good start. I think a good November would be. You think about what happened last November, going down to Asheville.
Yeah,
I mean it was, everything went sideways early on, and they never really got back on track. So I think a big, really good November would be a huge part of the equation here.
Tournament.
Yeah, I think definitely good enough for the tournament. I mean, they've got some talent. They've got size. They got talent. They got a good point guard. They got multiple options on the wing, and they got 3 or 4 big guys who can play. I mean, if you don't make the tournament, there's going to be an uprising, I would think, in College Park. I mean, there's some talent.
Willard might be in trouble at that point.
I don't mean to put any pressure on the staff, but I think they feel like they've done all the work that they need to have the pieces in place too.
Chris Knoche says Final Four or bust for Terps.
Yep. Extend.
Yeah.
We got huge predictions from Chris. All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, hold on for a second. Chris, we've been doing this thing for 9 or 10 years. I don't remember because I was promised there was no math, but you have been one of the best freaking guests we've ever had on the show. We're incredibly proud and happy for you for being inducted to the Hall of Fame, man. It's a huge honor.
Yes.
Really happy for you and your family, and I can't even really give you shit right now. So we're gonna have to leave one of these things without saying something bad about you. And,
you know what?
Frankly, it bothers me.
You can do it after
you leave.
After I hang up, you guys can have at it, right? Exactly. Yeah, just crush me. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's only fair.
Yeah.
Congrats, man. It's a real great honor for you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I was stunned, but you know what? I kept the award, so it's all good.
Yes. Hall of Famer Chris Knoche, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll get you a blazer patch or something.
You know what? Lapel pin.
Lapel pin. Yep.
There we go.
An IMS Radio lapel pin.
Yeah, you know what? You got to start making those things, man.
That's right.
We'll get you a bottle of Clutch vodka. How about that? on what was? Yeah.
Maybe
supply from my man Wiz.
Yeah, maybe Larry will eventually give us our bottles of Clutch vodka. I don't know. It's been 2 years.
Walt gave me 3 bottles to give to them, and I keep forgetting to pass them on. Anyway, whatever. That's what that joke was. All right.
Okay, boys.
Chris, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Good seeing you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, bye. All right. Chris is always very good. I'm glad you did that at the end, Paul.
You got to respect the man. Like, I love giving him shit more than anything, but like, he's a staple in this basketball community. Their podcast is really good if you haven't listened to it before. I mean, I've seen him off, at games, and we actually saw him at a Bruce Springsteen concert a couple years ago. I had a couple beers. Like, he's just a great dude, and like literally any and every good thing that happens to him, he totally deserves. So that's
like
really
you
awesome.
said, he just shows up. Guy just keeps
shows up, man.
Year after year, getting it done. And he has some other side business. It's not like it's, the radio thing is his only gig. For whatever that's worth. But yeah, he's definitely got to be number one on our all-time guest power rankings. We'll have to do that sometime. All-time guest top 10.
We're just gonna piss off everybody that we don't rank. Like
Norlander.
Hey,
we'll have to have like a top 5 of just all the people we like, and then not rank them, and then just kind of everybody else.
Yeah, we'll just do the bottom 5 again.
Yeah, exactly.
Norlander will be on that one.
Norlander, Bruce Feldman,
Durkin.
Yes.
Who could tell that Durkin was a psycho after that interview? Anyway, right?
Ken Palm with all the sighing, every question we asked. Oh, God.
He was so mad. He was so mad. We asked him about the luck thing. Oh man, that was fun. Yeah, we got to go back through the archives and see.
I think Ken Palm had some Maryland fan related baggage though, so he probably didn't have to come into it, with the best.
He was getting crushed online that year for sure.
Back
when Maryland fans cared about things.
Yeah. All right. Well, we started a segment last week called Larry's Locks versus Paul's Picks. Now we have to see how we did. Let's see. Well, we both did about as expected, about 5, 2, and 3.
Maryland screwed both of us. Otherwise, we'd been 3 and 2.
Yeah, we both picked Maryland and lost that one badly. Both of us had close losses where we had leads for the entire game. That in the
Wisconsin,
last minute.
Man, what are you doing?
And Michigan for me, who were up 21, but it is what it is. So we are 2 and 2, and the big winner last week. Let's go back and look at the picks. So I got Mississippi State and UCLA right. You got NC State and Illinois right. Jeff called us out on Wisconsin and Michigan, and those were the 2 that looked like we were both right for the whole game. But in the end, Jeffrey got him right. Jeff was the big winner. He went 2-0.
You guys were both up, like at halftime, I want to say, in both of those games, you were probably up combined like 20 points against the spread. And
Yes.
You know, Michigan
right.
didn't care about the second half.
Absolute
obviously.
bed crappage.
Yeah, and Wisconsin.
Michigan and Wisconsin, as our buddy Scott Van Peltz would say, did not sign up for 60.
We are.
Well, I'm going to 4-0 this week. Let's see what you guys got.
I gotta warn you. I literally have not looked at the lines at all. I'm going to be picking on the spot. You go first, Paul, so I have a chance. I have the DraftKings page open right now, so you go, and then I'm just gonna.
Fair enough. I've got a bit of an SEC flavor this week. So first one we're going with is give me Missouri and the points against Texas A&M.
Okay, but you have to tell me what those points are.
Oh, yeah, Missouri getting 2.
Missouri plus 2. The first one I'm looking at,
and we have no Maryland game this week, obviously, so we got to pick 5 completely random.
I'm taking. I keep trying to type on the on the StreamYard screen and not on my. I'm taking Oklahoma State -3 against West Virginia.
Oh, the fighting Gundies.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, let's see. I would like to take. Give me Tennessee given 13.5 against Arkansas. Tennessee looks real good, man.
Okay, I am just gonna find a game and pick here. Let's see. I'm gonna take Ole Miss -9.5 on the road at South Carolina.
Bastard.
Do you have that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was going to anyway.
All right.
Yeah, I really kind of wanted that to shit on South Carolina, but that's fine. Let's see. You know what? Let's get weird, Larry. I'll take South Carolina +9.
All right.
Let's mix it up a little.
Is it 9 or I'm seeing 9.5? Are you seeing 9?
Oh, it might have been. My
varies
page
varies
might be
by
old.
location.
Yeah.
I think.
I'll go by whatever. To go by 9.5. That's fine.
We'll both be 9.5.
Yeah.
Then it'll be the same. Okay. I am gonna do. Let's see. I have a whole bunch of minuses. You know what? I'm probably gonna hate myself for this one, but I'm gonna take. I did this last week with UCLA and it worked for me, so I'm going to do it again. UCLA plus 27.5 against Penn State.
I don't hate that.
So it's a lot of points because they can get up and then they start putting in subs. And unless it's Maryland, of course, they'll keep pressing. But against UCLA, they'll probably try to get playing time for their subs. So
that is at Penn State, I believe.
It is.
Yeah, that's probably a good pick.
Go ahead.
All right, so give me. I want to pick Clemson against Florida State, but I think DJU isn't playing, and that might actually make Florida State better.
Yeah.
Let me take. Give me Michigan getting 2.5 at Washington.
Okay, Michigan plus 2.5 at Washington.
I don't think they're very good, but I think they're better than that.
Yeah. Again, I am on the fly here. So let's see. Missouri and Texas A&M. Wow. I don't have a. Okay, let me just do Pitt and North Carolina. I'm going to take. Let's see who's going to win that. I'm going to UCLA. North Carolina's plus 2.5 at home. I'm taking Pitt -2.5 against North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina looks like the wheels are going to completely fall off here.
He's toast.
Yep. They look bad. All right, last one. Give me that Bama team giving 22.5 to Vandy.
-22.5 against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Vandy's actually pretty good, but I think Alabama's just a force right now.
I'm taking the Fighting Signetis
There you go.
Minus 13.5 against Northwestern, because they're gonna. Things seem like they're gonna score 50 again, and can Northwestern even get to 20? I don't know. So anyway, all right, there we go. Jeff, you've seen the picks.
I've got my.
Okay.
I guess in honor of Dikembe Mutombo, I'm gonna wag the finger on Paul on Michigan at Washington. I think that looks like a sucker bet. Why would you not take number 10 Michigan against a Washington team that is 3-2? Michigan struggled obviously in its first game against one of the new Pac-12 teams, and this one's on the road. So I guess I like Washington there. Larry, I'm kind of torn between two. I feel like Indiana has now reached public sweetheart level to where everybody and their mom is probably going to be betting on them, and that, is usually the wrong way to go. On the other hand, I feel like Ole Miss is a similar scenario where everyone's going to say they're going to come back and kind of, get that taste out of their mouth from last week. South Carolina, I think, was on a bye week. So I really hate to take South Carolina, though, based on their fans. So that makes it difficult. Yeah, for that reason alone, not wanting to give them positive karma, I'm going to say Indiana Northwestern is the one that I will disagree with.
Jeff doesn't want to get yelled at online anymore.
There you have it. There are our picks. We will see how it goes this weekend. No Maryland this week, so we have 5-10 completely different. Well, actually, no. We have
we got the one game in common.
Yeah, one game in common. So actually, Jeff, I think, predicts that you're going to win that based off of what he just said. So we'll see. I literally just looked at the lines off the top of my head, so I don't have a lot of faith this week, but we'll see. All right, and that's where we are. Really, we're 40%. This automates since we have data in that week. It automatically puts stuff.
Got to fix your spreadsheet, Larry. This is ridiculous.
No, this is good. Look,
it's not 20%. It's 40%.
Well, at this moment, we've only gotten 2 out of 10 picks correct.
Well, the 5 haven't played yet. You're hurting my feelings.
Still. All right. Let's get rid of this. There you go. There are Larry's Doxter's Paul's picks. I didn't see. Did anybody in the chat, was anybody like crushing us? I wasn't even looking. I was too busy trying to get my picks. No?
Not yet.
No, nobody. So, yeah.
We'll take it. Nice, relaxing weekend. No Maryland to complain about. Sit back, enjoy the beauty.
I was sending my wife, and we're going to have to go to a farmer's market or something on Saturday. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself early on Saturday. I'm so used to getting up, getting plugged in, and going for the next 8 hours straight. So it's going to be bye week is always a little weird.
Kind of the excitement of having college football Saturdays that you have at the beginning of the year, I feel like that's gone a little bit because we've had 5 of them now. So it's not like, oh, I gotta sit down and watch every game Saturday. That's kind of gone now, especially since I'm a little deflated over Maryland. So I don't know. I'll watch games, of course, but I might not do the same normal.
Y'all are doing this wrong.
Save your energy. Save your energy for the Commanders game, Larry. That's where it's at.
Oh yeah, I'm 50-50 on just turning this into a Jaden Daniels podcast in the future. So
I've been pushing my son to do a Commanders podcast because he's would be really good at it. I thought
he'd go viral.
What about Ermanders? He thought that was terrible. Like Erman Commanders combo.
Ermanders.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying.
They just go and change the name again next year, and you'd have to change the podcast name. Rebrand.
Is Jaden Daniels better than Lamar Jackson?
I'm not saying a word because I'm not tempting. I'm not tempting anything.
He is. I would say he probably is.
La 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 la
la. Probably a better passer right now. His decision making is incredible, and his accuracy.
He's so good. He's so nasty. I'm just so scared. I'm so scared.
Yeah. The last time you guys had one of these, it was RG3.
Let's not. Let's not. Let's just not.
Hello, Nada put an end to that.
Do you know how hard it is to be a fan of this franchise?
Yes, I do. Yes,
30
I do.
years we've been waiting for like a glimmer of hope about literally anything. Just let us have this thing.
Listen,
please.
I'm an Orioles fan. Same thing. I'm a Maryland football fan. Same thing.
Yeah, okay, you understand. Yeah, try being all those things and also Commanders fan.
Orioles is the equivalent to the Commanders. I'll say that.
Okay, well, here's a question. Which of you two started a site about University of Maryland sports in 2005?
Well, I mean, that just sounds like poor judgment.
Yeah, extremely.
I mean, we're stuck with Maryland. We went there. We had no choice.
We have
you made a choice, buddy.
On Maryland message board since the mid '90s. So we got you beat by 10 years, Jeff.
That's a whole other thing. We started a podcast about Maryland sports. I mean, what kind of dumbass thing was that, right?
Oh my God. You just reminded me of something. I went back through my inbox on the.
Did you see our original?
I saw original emails and I read them and I was going to pop them up, but I had zero prep time today to do anything. And I was going to show it. I could only show a little bit of it because we started having like phone numbers and emails and financial stuff.
Yeah.
So I couldn't only show a little bit of it, but it was really funny because Jeff, you and I had apparently talked about it a year prior to it actually happening. Because I was streaming music live for my band. We were doing it. We were doing live on like before anybody was doing this, because my buddy Alex, you guys know, is like internet tech guru guy, right? Like he's at the forefront of all this crazy shit. And I had asked you and we were like, yeah, let's do it. But then never materialized. Then a year later, I wrote to Paul and I was like, Paul, I want to do a podcast. And I have two ideas. We've told this story before.
Yeah, it was a soccer podcast at first, right?
It was either that or the Maryland one, or both is actually what it said. Do you want to do? Yeah. So I was going to be the MLS guy, which I don't even follow really soccer much anymore. But I do. But MLS, you were going to be the middle guy, and then we were going to try and get a Euro snob to be the third guy. And we were going to do it that way. And then the other thing was obviously with Jeff. And I there was a funny thing, and I was like, what if I could get Jeff Erman to do it with us? And you were like, yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. And so then there's another thread where I wrote to Jeff and I was like, hey, Jeff, we talked about this a year ago. It never happened, but I've been talking with Paul. Like, what if the three of us did it? And blah, blah, blah. And you were like, yeah, can we also add in, can I say the names of your ex?
I don't care. Yeah.
Can we add in Josh Stern? And I was like, yeah, of course. So it was going to be four of us and a fifth came later. So, but
well, the most important thing, Larry, is what year was that? Have we completely blown through our 10-year anniversary? Or
12, 13 years ago?
2014 and our 10-year anniversary. It was in November. So our 10-year anniversary is coming up.
Okay, so we haven't blown through our 10-year anniversary, which would have been kind of funny if we did that. But so we can still try and conjure something up for that.
I think that's the greatest. We got to do a greatest hits show for that.
I read through it, and there was at the end of the thread, it was like it started getting into, hey, the practice session went great, but Jeff, your mic is no good. Like literally back then, it was Jeff.
The more things change.
And we're like, and I was like, I said way too many times, and I've gotten that largely out of my.
And Paul was perfect.
Yes, Paul was perfect. Yes, yes,
that's great.
So anyway, it was really funny, and it was really good to review it. I'm gonna get the exact date because it's in the thread, so we'll have a 10-year anniversary or something. But yeah,
we'll throw a party. It'd be great.
So, all right. Now everybody has left us because we just
they don't want to listen to us reminisce all night.
I would have too by this point, to be fair. I understand.
Yeah.
I hurt my feelings.
Well, there's there's some Commanders comments. So you guys are all excited. We'll see. No rookie quarterback has ever won the Super Bowl. So if he does, hey, he's gonna be yes.
Just let us we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to jinx it. We're just gonna be happy for a little while. That's all.
I think
it's been talked about in my house every day.
Yeah,
they're playoff bound for sure. Oh man,
boy.
A Ravens Commanders Super Bowl would be so fun. My God.
Yeah, I just want to get through that game without Daniels being broken in half. So
they play. What week is that?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. From
2
now,
weeks.
Yeah.
Or a week and a half now.
Oh, I forgot about that. So,
yeah, that's why I really don't want to talk about the Ravens, and I don't want to talk about the last time we had a quarterback we were excited about and played the Ravens. So let's maybe not do that.
Haloti Nada is to RG3 as Justin Matabuike is to Jaden Daniels. Let's just say that.
Well, if he does that, I'm coming to your house. I'm going to punch you in the face for even saying that.
You know what the difference in handicapping that game in a couple weeks? I think we still have the psychological edge from ending your preseason winning streak.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We hit them where it hurts in the preseason.
Listen, at both the times the Ravens have won the Super Bowl, they have lost to the Redskins at the time in the regular season. So, hey, Commanders win, that'd be great, because then that will be foreshadowing a Ravens Super Bowl. So there you go.
I can live with that. We're not winning the Super Bowl this year anyway. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
You win the playoffs and keeping them alive. That's all.
I'm joking. I don't want him to get hurt. RG3 was the most fragile quarterback I've ever seen. That guy, every game, got the shit beat out of him. It was unbelievable. I've never seen any quarterback get beat up like he did.
It looked like the only quarterback I'll say came close was Patrick Ramsey. If you want to go back into the,
I know.
Yeah, you're not an old school Redskins fan like we are, but like Patrick Ramsey during the Spurrier years, Spurrier was just like 5 out, everybody's going deep, and then FTs just blitzed this poor kid.
That was pretty good, Paul.
That was pretty accurate. Yeah,
that was really good.
I mean,
that was really good.
That's the easiest one you could do.
Found a new career.
That's right. Yeah. You just do ball coach impressions. But that poor kid literally died. I mean, I thought he was going to die out there. I mean, they just murdered him every week. And he's like, I don't know, all deep. We're going.
And then RG3 had his last few years with the Ravens.
As a Raven.
Backing up Lamar. And I think Lamar must have taught him how to not get hit, because it didn't happen anymore. He didn't play a lot, but when he came in, he was sliding better and getting out of bounds and doing all those things.
He just didn't run as much too. I mean, part of it was he was so reckless, and the issue in the pocket was it just seemed like every time he got hit like a Mack truck went down.
Oh my God.
He was really terrible.
Brutalized. Yeah. Anyway,
I don't want to relive this, but yeah. All
right.
Jane Daniels. Woo.
Yeah.
There are ones of listeners enthralled with this.
I think there's a lot of people.
there's no people.
And hey, that's what NFL is king. They're not even listening to an NFL podcast, but NFL has such fan loyalty. You could have Maryland fans in the 70th minute of a 1-hour podcast listening to, and they'll still listen. That's why the NFL rules everyone.
No, and I think a lot of Maryland fans are also Commanders fans who've been suffering silently through all of this and just begging for a sliver of success. And will take literally whatever the hell they can get.
Don't you think the Maryland Terrapins fan base is about 50-50 split between Baltimore and DC fans?
Feels like a little more Ravens to me, just based off the site over the years, maybe 60-40, but it's pretty close to that.
Yeah. Paul and I were talking about this. The Ravens atmosphere in their games is very collegiate. It's very raucous. They have chants and traditions, and they're not even that old a franchise compared to everybody else, but they feel very college as compared to the Commanders or many of the other NFL teams. And it's could we get the Ravens fans, more of them, to come to Maryland games? That would be pretty good, right? And maybe it would help Maryland actually to have some of those guys. And I know, Paul, you've said a couple of times you think Maryland's attendance started taking a hit once the Ravens became a dominant
I absolutely
franchise.
Believe that.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely no way to prove it, but I absolutely believe that.
Probably true. They're competing against two professional football teams, so, and one of them is a very quality organization, and one of them's the Commanders. So,
about to be a quality organization.
We'll see.
Snyder's gone. That's all that matters.
Yep.
It's really remarkable the comparison between the Orioles and the Commanders. The awful, hated owner who was oppressive on his staff and just destroyed the franchise. And they've both sold at the same time to new guys who are beloved by the fan base, and they're both having resurgences at the same time. It's really kind of weird, right? So anyway,
prayers up, homie.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Chris Knoche. We'll be back next week on Wednesday, and we'll be looking forward to another football game and hopefully one that will get them back on track towards that bowl game. This is IMS Radio.